Why does the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
My first thoughts about a serious push for something on the continent came really when I saw Blacks Without Borders. Because this is what Blacks Without Borders did for me. You know, when I looked at what they were doing in Blacks Without Borders, one of the issues that you have here in the United States is that you have an oligopoly in many industries. The newer industries, there you can compete in newer industries, and your manifest destiny can be fulfilled if you have resources already and you go to the continent and you make relationships. There's opportunities that are abundant because they have nascent industries that are not fully developed, and so because of that,
right.
You can come and you can come in and you. And see, here in the United States, because you have things set up in such a way where, you know, if you notice the industries that are in some cases the most lucrative in the United States, you're totally cut out of because look at, for instance, the cable industry.
We talking about insurance. We talking about insurance, Thomas. We talking about finance and insurance.
Oh, yeah.
Remember you worked for Countrywide and I asked you, could I get a crumb? Remember that?
American.
Bank of America. You think I can get a crumb? You think I get a crumb? I don't think that's a minority set aside where I could get some contracts from, and you laugh one night, you know?
Because they had.
That's how it is.
Because, you know, once they got rid of Glass-Steagall, the banks got back into offering insurance. And so
I know,
Bank of America acted as its own insurance company in some cases and as a broker. So they're not letting you get no bread.
Of course not. Of course not. You know, that was, and Bill Clinton signed that into law. It was Bill Clinton that signed that into law.
Mm-hmm. So I think what people, I think when you present this is why I've said from the onset is that we have to present the opportunity. It's nice if you could present it based off of, you know, it's a cultural thing. You have to present it from a business standpoint and make a business case for it. Yeah. Because at that point, it takes a lot of the emotional aspect.
I did that tonight. I talked about business. And everything I pointed to was business.
That way, and when you present it that way, what the opportunity is, what the cost is, what the risks are, you have to, and that's what you really want. You want people who see the opportunity and understand the risk and understand, you know, where, you know, and part of the issue with, and I've said this over and over again too, is that you can't really blame people who are successful here, who have their money, if they feel comfortable here, because it's what they know. You can't really knock someone.
Well, we were talking about.
Let me finish. My point is that when people have acquired capital will gravitate to where there's the least risk. And so for someone like, for instance, like that guy who's the real estate magnate here, Peebles down in Florida, right? He's from like DC originally or whatever. Guys, he's worth like $700 million, right? So someone like him who has, you know, resources at his disposal, he's been very successful, but he knows this. He's not. So when you look at time, effort, money, he's going to put his time and effort where he knows he's going to get return. And when people say, well, why don't we have more black investment being made in places like on the continent, because they just don't know it. And in the time, so for them, it's not worth their time to take the risk because they've already got assets. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we will have to partner with other people who, you know, they're willing to venture out, but we have to have a program that helps to mitigate their risk.
Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, I said, look, most of the people who, when we talk about building in Africa, you know, the average black businessman, they're like, man, I want to get there, you know. I have never heard a black man who talk about business who reject it, because they understand market, they understand scale, they understand the law of large numbers, the law of probability, they understand control, policy, infrastructure. All those things play in your favor when you're the majority, or you're sitting down with the people in power, you know. But the people, you know, who complain the most about America, the white man study, blah, 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 they're the ones who are the most against what we're talking about. Because, like I said, I said earlier to Ambassador Charles, a lot of people simply aren't educated. You know, they don't understand business. They don't, like you said, break it down to a business standpoint of view. This is the business. If business is not your thing, and they say, well, what does business have to do with it? Business is everything. America was founded as a business. You know, the business of government is business. The business of nation building is business. Nation building is business. You know, this is not playing games. The cultural aspect is the aesthetics of what your value system and everything. But to protect your value system, you need a business agreement. And the government is business. Because, you know, the government enterprise, establishing a government is business. You know, this is business. This is not playing games. So when you basically look at nation building from a business standpoint, you know, people look foolish trying to tell you, you know, something, man, yeah, you could make money like that. You know, yeah, municipal bonds, you know, real estate, you know, infrastructure, roads, and everything. It can generate tax revenue and tolls and everything. You control tolls on the road, and this can be a cash cow. Wow, you know, real estate taxes, property taxes, income taxes, import duties, and everything. Wow, you guys should be up and running, and wow, have a tax base and everything. You're giving loans to businesses. You have your own businesses that importing. You're creating millionaires every day by giving low interest loans to people to do importing and exporting and everything. Wow. So you say there's plenty of opportunity. You're not facing racism. You know what I'm saying? You got education. You got law and order, also like that. Why would anybody be against that? Because I don't think people basically don't look at this from a standpoint of business. They don't look at nationalism from a standpoint of business. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what the problem is.
My thing is, guys, what are some ways that we could get to create what are some programs that we could create to
we have one is we have the social network. We have this big social network that we have, right? A lot of stuff is in there. We have a finance department. We just need to have more people in there participating on how we get more people active in the social network.
Hold on. I'm asking where's some. Hello?
Is this John?
Yeah, this is John. What's up, Thomas?
Oh, okay. What's up, son? It's Thomas.
Oh, yeah. I'm basically asking what are some programs that we could use to when we do have public-private partnerships with these entities. Like what type of programs can we put out there to mitigate the risk for them, so that they know when they get in a deal with.
You have every country has like a small business administration, but they'll give you, like, I believe in a command economy. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in America. I don't believe in pure capital. Capitalism means if you have capital resources, you exploit resources, you exploit markets just for the sake of making money. I believe in a streamlined, structured economy. That means you can make money.
We have state-owned enterprises.
No, not state-owned. No, it can be private-owned, but the state tells you what to make, what to build, when to build it, what to sell it for. That's what Japan has. You know, and it tells you and Japan prevents too much duplication. It'll tell Sumitomo and Mitsubishi, you guys work together to create a battery because we're spending too much money and capital right here, capital wasted. If you guys combine to create a third-party entity, you can have a certain battery for that new car you're both putting out next year. Those are the things MITI, the Ministry of Information and Trade in Japan, does. You know, it finds ways how to streamline the economy and make companies work together. America doesn't have that. America doesn't have that. It could suggest, but America will let the companies go on Wall Street, get money, and make money, everything like that. You know, and it's a mess. You know, I believe in a streamlined economy, a command economy. You know, that's commanded and streamlined, and so therefore It stops waste. It stops abuse, and a healthy economy.
Yeah, there's no problem with that as long as everybody gets the N in the LIN. That should be some strong nationhood. They're very nationalist.
Well, the business community is a part of the infrastructure of nationhood. Just like the Army, you have the Army. Your investors, your industrialists are a part of the nation. Just like a private citizen, just like a janitor, you have an industrialist. He's part of the nation. You know, he's bringing and building product. He's taking a risk, and he's doing all those things and whatnot that he's capable of. He has the organization, he has the talent and everything to produce a product that you need. You have to encourage industrialists. You know what I'm saying? Your industrialists and your workforce. You know what I'm saying? Those things have to be harmonized together. You know, you could go and say, look, this to the industrialists, a workforce, this is what they need. Boom, 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 boom. Industrialists, this is what you're going to have. You're going to have protection through tariffs. You have government support. You have low-interest government loans, and all these things right here. Same time, this is what you got to give back. This is what we want you to see. This is what the metrics we want to see you expand to. 5 years, we want to see at this point. 10 years, we're going to be at this point. 20 years, you're going to be at this point. Give us a timetable and benchmarks how you're going to achieve this over a long period of time. That's what I believe a government should do. You know?
Making sure that their risks are mitigated. The public-private partnerships that we get into. That when these guys,
most of the private sector industries is private sector. You know, public-private when it comes to things like transportation, maybe the stock exchange and stuff like that. And that can be public-private. You know.
Well, Kyle, I think what John is asking, and correct me if I'm wrong. So, because we're talking about dealing with a host country, we've talked about the fact that in some cases, well, in the case of the host country we were thinking about, we know that there is corruption. Okay, it's actually at a very high level, and the only way it's really going to be able to mitigate the risk of people who are dealing with the country such as this for the first time, you will have to get in bed with certain organizations like OPIC, which actually protects against political risk. That's
of course.
You're going to have to, and only because if you go over as a private interest group, and
you have to do it on a high level. I agree.
I'm going to tell you what happens. I'm going to tell you exactly what happens. So if you go over the private interest group and they know that you have no government backing, what's going to happen is your project will get stalled with just reams of documents that are required. They'll lose shit. They'll give you excuses. And before you know it, you'll burn up 1/3 of your capital. I actually know someone, for instance, that I don't know how the hell he got in with Goldman Sachs. I've talked about him over and over again. I met him through a Jewish attorney, okay? And when I told him about something that we had thought about doing over in Brazil, he liked the idea. He said, well, man, but I tell you, you're going to have your bribe money ready. The first thing that came out of his mouth,
he told me about that.
You're going to have to have your bribe money ready. He said, expect 1/3 of your money to be for bribes. Off top. That's insane. And that's dealing with Goldman. He said, and that's with my contacts that I have through Goldman Sachs. The dude, it was funny. He didn't even really want like a major piece of it. He said, man, if I help you with this, I won't ask you for no money. You cut me in on 5% of the deal. I haven't talked to this dude in years, but it was but the fact that he told me like, yeah, you're gonna have to have your bribe money ready. I was like, God damn. And that was over in Brazil, which, they have a relationship with Angola due to, their Portuguese connection. And it's even worse in Angola. You know what I mean? So
that's all when you say, why do apartment buildings cost so much in Angola? Because everybody took a kickback on copper pipes, steel. They added their own cost in there. Oh, hey, $1,000 for that car. So it jacked all the prices up on steel beams and all the whatever the pipes and everything like that. Everything had a kickback. They would make Tony Soprano blush. And what happened in Angola? Right. You know what I'm saying? Tony Soprano look like a altar boy.
So to mitigate the risk. So what I was going to say, Jonathan, was to mitigate the risk. One of the first things you do is you have to understand the political landscape as well as how property law works in these countries. Now, in the case of like Angola, their property law is actually fairly new. Like their property laws were established maybe 15 years ago. Okay, so once you understand that their property laws are different than ours, you have to get more than adequate legal representation, very thorough in understanding how those things work, alongside having the right corporate structure to make sure that you can protect any. Like for instance, like I would never leave any capital in that country. You know what I mean? Like you would wire funds when needed. You ain't not leaving a fucking cent in that. Like so, any capital that's needed will be in some offshore account where we have control of it. And then if there's any disbursements that's needed, it's with the understanding that there are certain time horizons which you must fulfill. We're not going to release more than, like, we had a project, like, we may release 1% of the time. Like, we'd have to have that understanding up front. And so those are the types of things that you have to have rubrics. You have to have certain requirements that hold them accountable.
Some metrics and benchmarks, analytics.
Yeah, do you guys think groups like Mr. People's Group would they take interest knowing the background of Angola?
You would have to
like People's, he wouldn't touch it. Like People's, he's a guy that he is very entrenched in what's going on here because he has a lot of real estate holdings. He's essentially, Donald Trump does a lot of big deals. He does those type of deals here in the U.S. So most of his time in the is so, and that's why I was saying, someone who has that much wealth, that much assets, he's tuned into the real estate market here. He's not really willing to make that much of a risk in something that he doesn't know. Robert Johnson, he at least took the risk only because he believed in it, that much, because he understands, the concept of nationhood. And Robert Johnson came out of his own mouth and said, blacks should support Liberia the same way Jews support Israel, right? And he put his money at risk, right? He put like $30-some-odd million at risk. But not everyone's, got that type of sentiment or those kind of sensibilities. You know what I mean? So, like, in other words, it would be a situation, Jonathan, where if you went to People's, you would have to have like a deck with like 50 pages showing him where he's going to be able to get his money out. And if you can't do that, he's not fucking with you.
So let me ask you a question, Thomas. What about the prognosis that, the real estate, like in Lekki, Nigeria, not Lekki, Echo Atlantic, 90% of the property, even before there was, they finished the seawall, was bought up by mainly European firms. So 90% of the buildings are going to be European buildings and everything. And Nigerians don't care because they're going to make the money off the taxes and everything like that, the goods and services and the economic activity. Could it be a situation where the first phase of the state, we just make an open door policy as far as real estate and let people take their own risk and come in?
That could be it. We have to have all options on the table, but the main thing is we have to be in a situation where we have some element of control over it, so to make sure that it doesn't.
If we establish we're the ones writing policy, we're the ones with a municipal bond, we're the ones holding the tax, we're the ones we have a municipality established.
Yeah, that's all well and good, but we still have that entity in the background to consider. That's always going to be something until we can find a way to become like a special administrative district, kind of like Hong Kong has a relationship with China, but their own deal.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want like something like Hong Kong, Dubai, and United Arab Emirates.
We have to circle the wagons around some realities. Like, this is what I've said from the onset. What I see unfolding is a potential to be like a special administrative district similar to Hong Kong. Okay. And Dubai. Really, something like that, because it's because of the nonsense that went on with colonialism. You're talking about, because what Ambassador Assar said, I understood what his sentiment was, but it doesn't have to be that way, and we can't afford that. He was saying a lot of people have to die if you think you're going to come and create a country. I'm going to say this over and over again so everyone gets it. I don't see a totally sovereign country. What I see is a nation state that has a special administrative district.
Same thing with
that
me.
We will have,
same
but
thing
that
with
we
me.
can
Same thing with me. Same thing with like let's some examples. Taiwan. Taiwan is not recognized as a nation state. It's still under UN and China's authority. You have Hong Kong. You have Macau. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You have Sicily, Italy. You have Dubai. You have Dubai, who's an independent territory inside the United Arab Emirates, but they understand they have strict Islamic laws in the United Arab Emirates. So let's create Dubai where the world could come, and we have a separate entity. That's what I look at. The idea of sovereign, because we're so interconnected with now, the idea of a sovereign state is not really all that necessary if you can get 99% of what you want. If you can get 95%, if you're passing all off, you get 99% of what you want. What do you need sovereignty for? That's only added cost. That means you got a burden of establishing embassies and contacts with all these countries around the world. I believe Liberia, even though it will never happen because it's the first black state, because out of pride, some of these African countries, if they merge together, right, and let one country be the thing and the other country be this, and they could probably break the continent up into like 30 or 40 different states, and you have like 4 or 5 central that is a sovereign, and these other things are completely autonomous territories with their own laws and everything like that, based on ethnic lines. There has to be a new alignment or movement, because the way things are going right now, man, it's like, do you know what the burden of cost is if one state wants to have a relationship with 180 countries in the world?
Right. So Thomas, but basically what you're saying is with being in a sovereign state, or actually being in a protectorate state, we would have everything except the military.
Well, yeah, but because the thing is that
you have a security force.
You might have a security force, something like that. But the thing is that if you were to try to create a new state, it would be absolute bloodshed.
Right.
I mean, because
It would have to be an entity. It would have to be an entity under the host country. That's what I was saying. Because you have to use that power.
Here's what I envision, Jonathan. Right, like the main issue here in the United States is that the way the infrastructure is set up, the cards are stacked against us. Right. What we really want to do is be able to control a judiciary that's not going to look at us based on the color of our skin. That's going to give us a fair shake at all times. We want economic opportunity to be able to control our destiny and be able to have something for our offspring and for the future generations. And you don't have to have a new country to do that. You just have to have a new jurisdiction that you can control policy.
Yeah.
You can have nationhood without complete sovereignty. Like Scotland is like a nation. You know what I'm saying? Or Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales. These are like countries, separate countries. They built an infrastructure so well that they basically are like their own separate countries, but they're part of the UK. You know what I'm saying?
And so and I'm glad we're having this discussion because I think people, like I said, I'm just a realist at heart, and I know. So when you broach this topic with people and you try to get them to wrap their minds around the concept of nationhood, you don't necessarily, like I said, we don't need to try to create a whole new country to redraw the bullshit lines that the Europeans did. We just need to be able to get control of a territory, control our destiny by creating law, policy, and economic opportunity and security for our people. That's really what it's about. So creating a whole new country and a whole new mass and drawing lines, that's when you talk about obliteration. But if you talk about having a jurisdiction, which is really a huge jobs program, people don't get because now you're not talking about upsetting any ethnic lines or anything like that. You're just talking about carving out an enclave.
An enclave, a state.
So
a state.